Okay, great. Well, let's kick it off. Steve, thank you so much for taking the time to join today. We're certainly in the age of AI with the number of note takers we have joined along and where this meeting is streaming to right now. And I encourage you all to please feel free to reach out and ask for recordings of our other sessions or any questions you may have after watching the recording. Please email me, jump into Bearmetrics, and let me know any questions you may have. But again, welcome. And today's session we're going to, for those that have been playing along at home, is actually one of 3 sessions that we've done so far and one of 4 that we're going to do in total. So the next one being next week. But a little bit of background as to why we're doing this and who we are. Bearmetrics is a subscription revenue analytics platform. And really our main mission at Bearmetrics is to help entrepreneurs achieve their purpose. Whether that's an entrepreneur who has started and founded their own company, or whether that is an entrepreneur who has acquired and is building a company again off the back of someone else's founding work. What we like to see ourselves as doing inside Bearmetrics and how we help our founders and our entrepreneurs grow is we like to help them see the future, whether that's through forecasting and scenario building or understanding how trends will continue or discontinue into the future. We like to remove the noise, show you what's important, bring those core KPIs to the front, help you make decisions faster. We want to automate the mundane for you so you don't have to worry about the little things and focus on the strategic direction of where you're growing. And finally, we'd like to help you and believe that we are the experts in how to drive growth in your subscription company. Who are we in total as a company? We are a subscription analytics and insights platform, but what we try and really do is uncover those insights that are going to help you grow, save time, make confident decisions with the data you've got, and grow your business. That's what we're all about. Who am I to be standing here in front of you today lecturing on SaaS best practice? I'm an ex-Australian Army officer. I was in the Army for a little bit over a decade. And after that, I decided to transition into the business world after doing some business education and landed in some digital projects and change management areas. After working there for a few years, I got a tap on the shoulder from an ex-colleague of mine who said, "Hey, do you want to come check out this SaaS space?" Working in a private equity firm that manages SaaS companies. I said, why not? Let's give it a look. And I've been here for now on 6 years. During that time, I've had the privilege of being able to attend Harvard Business School to do some advanced education, which really gave me an appreciation of how we can apply some large scale principles that we might otherwise only see in enterprise style companies down to some realistic outcomes for smaller scale SaaS companies and businesses that are just starting their growth. It's always good to see those that have gone through those teething issues to get where they are and be able to apply that to those growth startups that are starting from the ground up. In my spare time, I am a novice strongman. I like to lift heavy things, throw them around. I'd like to pretend I'm a golfer. I do enjoy getting out on a Sunday afternoon for a bit of a fish with my son, and first and foremost, dad and a husband. So what we'll cover today, we are now into session 3, No Lead Left Behind. For those of you that have been around, we have done Follow the Data and Bang the Drum, all about how to make data-driven decisions and how to establish a market presence, an identity, an ICP, and continue to bang that key message into your target market to ensure you are actually penetrating into the area you think you should be. Today's about No Lead Left Behind, but why do we want to cover these in general, and what does this mean to you? Well, in general, we like to talk about how to think, not what to think. And what I mean when I say that is, even in the early days of my military training, we understood that the foundations of warfare and how to execute a battle in general haven't really changed over the years. There's some fundamental principles that we all like to abide by, and we are taught how to fight a war. That is to say, when you are going to plan an offensive operation, a defensive operation, whatever it might be, there are some fundamental principles you should consider when you move into a theater of conflict, whether that's Iraq, whether that's Syria, Afghanistan, etc. You then figure out how to fight the war. So using those fundamental principles, you then push them forward into that theater and you adjust them to the specific circumstances. And this is highlighted in a lot of military texts, and the art of war is one that's often brought up in business terms as well. But I just dropped in there the foundational principles of the art of war by Sun Tzu, and you can see there that they're very general, but they can be applied to fight a war. But the last line that I've highlighted there is that according to circumstances that are favorable, one should modify one's plans. And that's what these sessions are all about. It's understanding how you could apply the fundamentals of how to run a SaaS company and then figure out how they fit into your industry, your product, your ICP, your market, and then use them to fuel that growth. We've done this over a period of time within Baremetrics, but also Baremetrics is owned by a wider private equity firm. And in that private equity firm's in on partners, we have core SaaS standards. Those standards dictate how we run those companies and the significant areas of focus that we want each of our leadership teams to have at front of mind when they're building their goals, when they're going through their strategic execution, etc. So what you see here is really just an articulation of those standards. And today we'll go into one in depth, but I hope to get through all of these in due time to give you some insights into what we believe are the best practices on how to run a SaaS company in today's market. So no lead left behind. What does that mean and what are we going to cover today? So over the next 30 minutes or so, I really want to concentrate on the following things. Now, again, these might be common sense to some people, but these are also the things that get pushed to the side quickly when you have a outage, when you have downtime in your product, when you have a customer banging down your door asking you why your data is incorrect, okay? This is when we start to look at big picture strategic objectives. We lose focus of the core, right? And this is getting us back to that core and making sure that our fundamentals are still being adhered to as we continue to grow. So are all our leads being captured in our CRM of choice, whatever that might be? Even if your CRM is a spreadsheet to start with, are you capturing all your leads? You're spending all this energy and effort to get these leads into your funnel, to talk to people, to get in front of the market. Are you actually capturing them and doing something with them? Are you managing ROT and velocity? And I'll talk about each of those, but essentially, how quickly are these leads moving through your funnel? And are you actively managing them at every given stage? Do you have a minimum number of follow-ups? Now, we've picked 6, and I've got some data to pick why we pick up 6, but are you managing those points of contact throughout the journey of a trial, of an initial engagement, of a proof of concept, of an MVP, whatever it might be? Are you giving them enough energy before dismissing them as a poor lead? Let's figure out if we are getting to where we need to be. Are you responding to inbound leads in less than 5 minutes when people are still hot, when people are still having your brand at the front of their mind and willing to engage with you? Are you engaged with them in the right time, or are you sending them through some sort of benign automation that really puts them off engaging with your product any further? And do you have reliable attribution? Do you know where your leads are coming from? Are you spending hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands on Google Ads and not knowing which ad campaigns are performing? Are you spending thousands of dollars a month on an SEO agency to increase your blogs when you don't know which blogs are converting your highest quality leads? That's what attribution is all about, and we'll get into that. So are all leads captured in a CRM? These are the questions I want to ask yourself. As you build your company going from a single homepage or a couple of pages on your website, you're going to build up lead capture forms. You're going to send out an email, you're going to have newsletters, you're going to have ebooks, et cetera, et cetera. At any given time, how many lead capture forms do you have, and do you know? This is a question to ask yourself right now. How many lead capture forms are out there? How many lead capture fields do I have, whether that be add an email, engage with this bit of content, etc.? Where do those leads go once they've filled that out? More often than not, you've probably engaged a third-party software, whether that's a MailChimp, a ConvertKit, an Unbounce, a landing page builder, to capture those leads for you in some way or another. Is that lead ending up in your CRM for you to do something with, or is it sitting in a third-party system that you only occasionally go and review and have a look at? Whatever that might be, you need to understand whether that's the case. What are you doing with them once you've got them? Are you actually putting them into an actionable sequence? Are you giving them content that is relevant to them? And are you using them to fuel your funnel? This was just an example of some of the things that I took from our own lead capture. And indeed, you can see here over time how many forms actually build up and capture leads on your behalf. Now, what you can see here, this isn't even our entire exhaustive list of lead capture forms. But what it is a signal of how you grow over time. And as you start to embark on different marketing campaigns, you'll throw these fields out there, these forms out there. And at any given time, depending on the search criteria that people are looking for, people will come across these pages. You might not regard them as top of mind priority lead generation platforms, but they are indexed, they're on Google, they're searchable. They might be on a Reddit thread somewhere. People will click on them. People will put their email in. Are you capturing everything? So you can see here across the examples, we've got everything from our trial sign up, which is probably our most highly trafficked lead capture form. We've got an old open startups where SaaS companies can post their Metrics data for everyone to look at. We've got our startup runway calculator. So this lead gen allows people to go in there and figure out how far their current cash balance is going to get them in their runway, as well as a few other different metrics in that calculator. Founder chat, subscribing to our podcasts and previous meetings. We've got an ebook that we've sent out several times, so you can download that for free and grab your email in there. We've got our standard newsletter. We've got integration requests, everything that we believe people want to talk to us about. We're going to try and capture those emails, capture those visitors, those leads to do something with them. Where do they go? Well, we need to have something that's going to show us. And again, depending on the CRM of choice, you should have the ability at any given time to go in, look at the number of forms you have, look at the page views, look at the submissions, and look at who is coming in via what means. If you don't do this, you should be. You should be able to categorize where people are coming in, because this then allows you to accelerate that lead funnel depending on what's working. You can then go in there and you need to segment them into relevant lists. So the key here, and this comes down to bang the drum a little bit in our previous seminar, is that the people that sign up for these things need to be receiving relevant and precise messaging, or they will lose that scent of why they came to you. If they have filled out a form with a particular question or query around a new integration you have, and you start sending them generic marketing material, that's probably going to show that you don't really have a vested interest in their query or what they're coming to you for. You need to be showing them value. So this is where you need to segment them into relevant lists. You need to customize that message flow. And then sure, you can throw them into a catch-all in the newsletter, but the newsletter shouldn't be the only thing that you have. You should definitely have a newsletter. You should be sending out a newsletter once a month, ideally, with a list of product updates, with some cool blog posts you've written, some commentary on the industry, some comment on the market, et cetera, et cetera. Keep people engaged. But before that, those individual lists should be cultivated to a specific message that is relevant to how they came to find you. This also enables you to retarget and re-engage with relevant content. Okay, when people are coming to you over time, they will often be in a consideration phase before they're moving into the buying phase. And in order to move them into that buying phase, you want to continually retarget and re-engage with relevant content to ensure that they are coming back. As an example, you might have a particular part of your product that is an add-on. People have expressed interest in how it works. Please sign up here for a webinar on how X works. They sign up for the webinar, they never attend. You're going to move them into a segmented list around product X or add-on X. And then the subsequent 3-month sequence will be all about the value and the benefit of subscribing to integration X, add-on X. If we were to then just put them into a normal newsletter with no word around integration add-on X, then again, they would likely not be engaged and would likely not do anything to continue their journey through your funnel. Okay, what is ROT and what is deal velocity? Now, these are not uncommon terms, and ROT was very specific in Pipedrive CRM, for an example, but it is managed in a different way across other CRMs. So ROT refers to how long a deal sits in a single stage. So if a deal is rotting, it is sitting in a stage for too long. Now, it is up to you as a manager to dictate what represents ROT in your particular funnel, and that is to say you are happy that a deal will sit in without any contact for 3 days prior to moving to contact made. You might want them to sit in post demo stage for no longer than a week before they have to be quoted or have to be moved on. But the biggest thing is you have visibility and you have a measure in place to ensure that leads aren't languishing in some part of your funnel. Now, if you're in a high volume, low ASP style business where your deals are coming through regularly and you're getting hundreds of signups per day, then I'd suggest automation will be your friend and you will automate a lot of your deal movement. If you're moving into enterprise software where you are in a very deliberate sales process and you are pursuing multiple parties to ensure the sale, then you are going to want to have a very acute awareness of your ROT at each stage and understand the actions that are required from your sales team in order to move those deals through. This does a couple of different things. It encourages action on the sales team and encourages accountability for them to own the deals that are moving through at any given time and the close date that is likely to close. Encourages that ownership, like I said, ensures focus. This is the important one. It's very easy for a salesperson to come back to us and say, oh, I'm 80% sure this deal is going to close. Okay, well, what foundation do we have on that? Well, I want to keep them in this stage because they still need to do A, B, and C, X, Y, and Z. Okay, how many other clients have we landed in the last month that only needed those things? Oh, no, I'm still waiting on a few. Sometimes we can get caught up in this idea that a deal is going to close when we haven't really got any positive indicators that they are likely to close. It's more of a hunch or, we think we've given them everything they need, but we don't really have a verbal confirmation. They haven't gone through vendor approval yet. They haven't really got a thumbs up from management, and we know that our contact doesn't have the authority to spend. So is it worthwhile keeping them in a particular stage, or should we move them back into a warm lead stage and let's focus on the deals that are closest to the boat? Which ones are closing in the next 2, 3 weeks versus those that might close in the next month or so? Being able to do that as well ensures that your sales team don't have a stack of deals in ready to close or quoted, and they lose track of which ones are the most high value, which ones are actually going to move the needle by the end of the month. So ROT and managing ROT ensures focus as well. Velocity is simple as time to close. And this is where you need to have an understanding of conversion rates between your stages, understanding how you measure those conversion rates, what key actions a deal has to take to move to the next stage, right? And at any given time, you might actually experiment in your sales funnel to isolate a particular point. A good example is trial to whatever the PQL status is. So generally in a trial environment, we want our users to be doing certain things. We want them to be engaging with our product, connecting a system, adding users, et cetera, to become a really strong PQL. How you identify that conversion point is up to you, but what you should be doing is at any given time experimenting to try and increase that conversion rate. If you've already captured the lead, you've converted that lead into a trial, you now want to focus on getting that trial to PQL stage. By understanding your velocity and your conversion rate, it allows you to conduct some really clear and testable experiments to make sure that those deals are moving through an adequate velocity. And that's, like I said, how do we improve that? Experimentation, understanding what moves those deals through the funnel, and getting them through on time. Okay, we talked about best times to make contact and follow-ups. Okay, this is some data from a project we did a few years ago now, but it's still very relevant. Now, again, this is how to fight a SaaS war. A lot of the times these days, we're not doing bulk cold outbound calling. We're doing bulk cold out emails for certain. We're doing cold email outbound on LinkedIn. But cold calling is not necessarily a thing of the past, but is a little bit more niched and a little bit more focused than it used to be. But these principles still hold true. Okay, so the best times to make contact, like you can see there, 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 8 p.m., 8 a.m., I should say, first thing in the morning, late in the afternoon, before people have got into their sort of flow state of work, and being able to actually get in there and get the work done. You can see there 2 p.m. versus 4 p.m., 164% difference in contact from that first dial. And really what that indicates, I believe, is, sort of that post-lunch, you're probably moving into a bit of email clearance, a bit of low energy activity versus 4 p.m. when you're starting to clear the decks, you may have a little bit more open time and your calendar is not as busy. Also, you're more than likely at your desk. Response time, this is really agnostic on calls, emails, any sort of contact from a lead. What we should be doing is responding within 5 minutes, whether that's the first email inbound to our sales at our info at channel. We really want to be on top of that and engage when the prospect is engaged. When they have taken their time to reach out to you and ask a question about your product, when they're asking about something about your services, you want to be in there while they're still in there. If you can watch them be active in your platform, you can watch them be active on your messaging service, whether that's Intercom or HubSpot Messenger, you really should be aiming as a standard SLA KPI for your success and sales team, respond in under 5 minutes. And a little tip from one of our previous sessions as well is that within that 5 minutes, the first correspondence should be, hey, can we jump on a call? Okay, whether that's a Zoom or a phone call, that face-to-face, for want of a better term, via Zoom, it really just opens the bandwidth of the conversation. A practice that I've put in place with my team in particular, even for success reps, is that you don't have to get on to resolve an issue or to sell at that particular time. You have to get on to open up the bandwidth of the conversation, understand more about the client. If we have an opportunity to hear feedback or opinion or any sort of interaction around our product from a prospect who's found us, I want to hear that, okay? And I want to hear that in an authentic and a connected way. So I'm going to offer a call straight up. A lot of people won't want to take the call, and that's fine. But the fact I'm offering it gives that prospect, gives that client a chance to increase the value of that engagement. So we're not just pinging back and forth over intercom. But again, the fundamental principle here is within 5 minutes. Persistence over time, if you are running a deliberate outbound campaign and you want to ensure you make contact. We've seen this expressed in, say, predictable revenue campaigns, where the chance of making contact is generally after the sixth attempt. And this is proven true to be whether that's call or email, any sort of contact correspondence that the client is receiving. And you can think about your own journey where you've entered into vendor agreements and you may be pursued by a company. How often are you responding to the first sort of welcome email versus the second, hey, this is what you should be doing, versus the third, have you had a chance to see X? What point in time of that journey do you actually make contact? And I think you'll find more often than not, it's between that fifth and sixth attempt, which is usually getting towards that point of consideration. The problem here is that most reps, and this includes emails and ourselves, they give up too soon. So they shut down that sequence before they get to six, or they move on quickly because they think it's a poor quality lead. But again, I implore you to think about your own journey. How many emails do you get per day? How many calls may you get? How many requests on LinkedIn do you get before you actually acknowledge that you have a problem to solve, or that you've got a software that you're trying to assess and make that? So your reps and you should be pursuing those leads out over those six attempts, not giving up after the second or third, no contact. How can we do that? Well, what we like to do is set up a bit of an automated campaign. And this is an example, and this is probably an overly zealous example, and I'd probably get pushback from this if I posted this on LinkedIn as an ideal outbound sequence. But I just want to paint this as an example of how easy it is to set up automation alongside personalization so it doesn't feel like a burden on you. Again, if you're a high volume business, low ASP, you've got a lot of customers coming in daily, then you're probably going to lean more towards automation. But you're going to flag certain deals that represent higher value to you to be able to customize and personalize that correspondence. If you are an enterprise offering where you don't have that many clients coming through, but they are extremely high value, high ASP, then really you're going to lead more towards the personalization and customization side. So again, this is testing and adjusting for your industry and for your funnel, but this is just an example of how you can layer things over each other to ensure that you're consistently front of mind. So let's take this as a 13, 14-day trial with our prospects. First day is probably going to be an automated email. That's a toolbox, a welcome kit, a thank you for joining up. Here's the things you need to consider. Here's what you should do during your trial. And we're probably going to have a LinkedIn ad there as well, whether that's from the company or a person of significance, AE, etc. Second day, we're going to want to personalize. Hey, saw you coming to our funnel. Thanks for joining up. Really love the work you're doing over at X. Saw you posted about this on LinkedIn. Wanted to say I read it, and your point about the expansion into this economy is interesting. Would love to talk more if you have the chance. Here's a booking link. Right. Day 3 might be a comment on a LinkedIn post, might be a share of some of their work if you're really engaged. Day 4, we're going to do another automated email. Hey, we're nearing end of week 1 of your trial. Here's what you should have done by now. If you have the capacity, you may well be in that WhatsApp space. You might be in the SMS space, whatever it might be. You're going to send out an SMS or a text if you are there. I've seen more and more of our customers. We don't do it personally, but more and more of our clients are moving into that WhatsApp space in particular, and using SMS as a very valid, messaging in general, as a very valid way of communication with clients. We've actually had some of our clients request our ability to integrate with SMS services for our Recover tool in particular, so they can better communicate with their clients around Recover services and dunning tools. Again, you can see the standard cadence down here, but what you'll notice is that over the course of that 2-week period, we are constantly pinging them on different channels over different mediums with a different message, whether that's automated or personal. Up to you how you cultivate this, but it's important you do have a sequence to contact those inbound leads and to continually follow up with them as they go through your funnel. Again, we are overkilling the 6 touch points here, but not to the point of detriment of our own ability to scale. How can you do this as a startup founder at day 1 or even after year 1, when you start to see all these different lead forms accumulate, you start to build your teams, you start to scale out your operations? This is what I like to do with any new company that I'm engaged with. And even as part of my advisory, these are the sort of activities I'll go through with the founders and say, okay, let's have a look at your journey, right? Who is in charge of a lead at any given time? Is that an automation? Is that an individual? Is it a team? Where does that lead sit? And how do they progress through your field? So this here represents what I would regard as a bird's eye view. So we're looking at a lead as it comes in, and you can see here, we've got lead in up in the left-hand corner, which if you have an SDR team, will be under the control of the SDR. The SDR is then calling that lead and attempt to get them on call, understand their use case, bring them into trial, or that lead may well go directly onto trial without having to go through that SDR process if you have a self-service product. From there, they may well book a demo. And at that point in time, you have a handover point that goes to the sales engineer, the AE, and we now upgraded their lead status as a potential PQL. They finish that call. They've gone through. You can see here how that lead moves through this workflow, where those handover points are. And these handover points are critical because we know that as we pass a deal through that CRM, has the criteria been met to move it to the next stage? But also, does the next owner have enough information on that lead to be able to give it what it needs to continually move it through the funnel, right? Are the deal notes updated? Are the call recordings in there? Is everything in there visible to everyone? And is everyone in the CRM actively monitoring these leads? We go through, we might get to quote issued. Did we win the deal? Yes, we did. Great. Let's hand it over to success and view our success cadence now. We want to make sure we're getting our quarterly business reviews in. We want to make sure our clients are looked after, and we do have a set cadence in place for our success function as well. And then we want to look at those deals that are lost. And as I mentioned before, we've gone to all that effort to get them in. We don't want to jettison them off into the ether. We'd love to put them into a 60-day re-engagement drip, depending on the sequence they came through on. And we'd love to get them into our standard newsletter drip as well. Okay, so this is what we'd call a bird's eye view. And now once you've established this, you can actually go down into a little bit more detail and hand this over. These next couple of slides to me represent what I would call a dead man's plan. When you are onboarding a new SDR or a new sales rep, you want to be very clear with the expectations of how they are to deal with a lead, how they are to deal with a client, and what they want to do. And any new AE or SDR should be able to pick this up and replicate that as part of their initial workflows. It'll speed up your onboarding, it'll decrease ramp time for new AEs, and it gives you a common understanding of how your sales system works. Okay, so here's an example. The email comes in, right, to our @sales or our @info inbox. How do we rank and then subsequently process that email? We've just done some cursory screening here, right? And again, this might be done in your CRM. Your CRM might actually give you the ability, sorry for that one, just lost our screen share for a second. Your CRM may actually give you the ability to validate this and lead score them as they come in. But if you don't have an intelligent CRM, or if you have a very basic CRM, you may well do this as part of your standard SDR process. So what does that look like? Do we have a SIG block? Yes, great. It's an actual business lead. That's what we're after in B2B. Have they given us a use case, i.e. budget, problem, timeline? Yes. Have they talked about our product at all, giving us an understanding they know what we offer? Great. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about it. Let's get in there and give them a response straight away. If they don't have a company SIG blocks, they might be just a single individual developer, etc. But are they tied to a brand name? Do they say they're representing someone? No. Okay, well, let's just push a little bit more automation towards them. Let's give them some information. Let's keep them as a lead and link to a link to book some time if they want to move forward in their own time. Now you can see here what we've done is this reverse to our ROT or our velocity, stay as a lead. So we're not going to progress that one through the funnel, but this one over here, we're actually going to progress that through and follow it up. So we're going to move it into probably an SDR funnel, probably to a lead or beyond. Okay. So we're now going to go through there. This one here is now that next layer. Okay. Now we've got a lead in, right? Where did they come from? Well, they signed up through a CTA on our website. They signed up for a hosted trial, or they came through our OSS platform. Okay. Different lead functions that we said. Again, thinking back to the start of the presentation where we had our lead our lead lists and all our lead capture forms. This is where we're really going to drill down into where they go and what we do with them. Okay. CTA on the website, if they've gone through and booked a demo, have they actually indicated what they're after in the demo? Is it just sort of a junk looking booking? Great. Make sure we update those deals in our CRM and make sure we confirm this is for an SDR handover, confirm our call with the SE or AE to understand they know the use case effectively, et cetera, et cetera. You can see here. Now, this takes a little bit of time to really pick apart your sales flow. And again, this is an exercise that is best done in retrospect when you start to feel like you can't control your leads or you don't know where your leads are going or you need to do more with what you've got. Sit down with your team and go through this and talk to your SDRs and say, well, what do you do with a lead when it comes in? Because you may not have communicated effectively what you think those leads are doing. All right. It's very easy to get caught up in strategic goals, partnerships, engagements external to your sales funnel, particularly as a small team. But understanding this and having this as a dead man's plan allows your team to all sing off the same sheet of music and have a common understanding of how you're going to execute in sales. Attribution, finally. Attribution is probably one of the most important, but one of the most misunderstood or misrepresented benefits of carrying a lead through your funnel. So understanding attribution should be part and parcel of your day to day. And again, this comes back to that sort of standard SaaS metric of CAC to LTV. Am I spending more time, effort, energy, resources on getting a lead in my funnel than they actually give me at the end? The flip side of that is I now have a really low CAC in a particular channel. I want to accelerate my spend and my effort on that channel to increase my funnel with these high quality leads. Right? All of the new paying customers that I closed in the last quarter came from this particular channel. Therefore, I want to continue in the next quarter to execute on that channel, and I'm going to 10x my effort around that. I can only do that if I understand where the leads have come from and how they've progressed through my funnel to close. Attribution at the point of understanding your traffic is one thing, but attribution following it all the way through to closing is another thing. And this is where we want to start today. Okay. So the absolute minimum you should be doing is understanding your channels. Okay. This is very easy via Search Console and Google Analytics in particular. Hook up through there and understand, like you can see on the right-hand side here, this is the bare minimum. You should know how much of your funnel is coming from organic, from paid, direct display, and referral. And what this also allows you to do is specify particular goals on expanding a particular channel over time. Okay, a lot of the time when we're looking at companies that are coming through a sale or a merger and acquisition, we can quickly see that their paid search is outweighing their organic. So what? Well, there's an opportunity to improve our organic presence by blogging, by optimizing existing blog posts, by getting that free and earned media in that organic space. But it also shows us that there's a risk if we have to decrease spending on our paid. Does that mean that we immediately lose our funnel and start to decrease our revenue? Okay, so understanding your channel as a minimum should be something everyone aspires to at the very start. And getting this in place at the very start of your journey into SaaS saves you a lot of heartache down the line when you have to start looking retrospectively where are your leads coming from. This also speaks to the importance of monitoring trends over time. One particular data point does not make the attribution, but attribution over time and how you improve on those channels will show you where you need to continue to work. Okay, what's the best case attribution look like? Well, we want to understand what keywords they've been coming in from, being able to capture Google keywords, which campaign or blog they entered our funnel through, whether that's through paid campaign or whether that's a particular blog that you've been pushing. What's the source? Okay, where were they before they came to you? Is it organic, paid, referral, direct, first page seen, number of pages seen, CCA click, form submitted? There is a whole host of attribution to the point of becoming unusable that you can explore. But the key point here is, again, understanding where your leads have come from, what brought them to your website, what did they engage with on your site before they converted to those critical points of your funnel, whether that was trial, whether that was PQL, etc. And then how do you use that to continue to improve that performance over time? So you may not have all of these available to you, but you should be seeking out at least several of these to combine across the customer journey to identify where you can continue to improve. The ones that I like here, first page seen, because that often relates to their keyword that they were searching for. Number of pages seen gives you an idea of how long people are staying on your site and whether they are further in their buying journey than not. The CTA clicked is particularly important, where the CTA is themed and not just a button. You'll notice in certain blogs that your blog CTAs should be linked and thematic with the key of the blog. So if I'm talking about SaaS dashboards in a blog post, then I want to make sure that CTA is, do you want to see the number one SaaS dashboarding tool? Click here. Okay. You want to make sure those CTAs are specific to the article they're reading, and then you want to monitor the attribution of that CTA over time as well. And as I mentioned at the start of the presentation, form submitted is a big one. Okay, what does all that look like, and what does it look like in best practice? What we're seeing here is just an example of a HubSpot demo, and we can see here that we've got our first conversion, last page seen, what life cycle stage they're in at the moment, our original traffic source, like I said, at least the original traffic source, the drill down number one. So if it was organic, where was it organic from? Okay, and then drill down number two, which is exactly the URL they come in on. So this is getting towards best practice where we can see all of this sort of stuff. It doesn't look like much in table form, but when we start to break that down into cohorts over time, we understand that X% of our new paying customers, their last page seen was this. So therefore, we want to optimize that page. Our first converting page was this, which means the keywords that we want to start to rank for or increase our rankings for are this. These are all the insights you get over time. Again, I can't speak enough of trends over time versus just a single data point. Down here, we now see, again, trends over time by particular leading metrics, lagging metrics that we want to see that represent improvement in our funnel. So we've broken this down by theme, for example, thematic blog posts under different topics. And as we progress through a campaign of improvement or increasing our production of organic posts in particular, we'll see improvements in those themes ideally, or we'll see at least fluctuations and understand how to pivot from there. We then get into detail of conversions by month and by topic. This is now looking at our conversions over time. And again, this is just some demo data examples of what it means to look at data over time and whether the efforts you've gone to improve a particular channel or a particular campaign are actually eliciting the results you want. So we can just see here on the table that at the start of the year, we ranked really well for our topic of integrations, but that started to fall off. But inversely, we started to increase our rankings for insights and tips. Okay, so what point in time do we shift our strategic focus to maybe writing a few more blog posts on insights and tips or optimizing? And did we stop a particular campaign around an integration? Did we drop a part of our product we were no longer in market for? What caused that drop versus what caused that increase as well? And then here's the so what. Okay, so you see all this data, you see these trends over time. You now need to start asking questions like, hey, what keywords or URLs was driving those traffic and why have we lost rankings on them? What URLs are now driving insights and tips? What do we do about it? And what keywords or URLs drive new conversions for SaaS analytics, for example, in September, because we seem to have a spike in September. So now this is where we come down to the crux of this whole conversation around no lead left behind. It is all well and good to understand the journey of your prospects through to paying customers. It's all well and good to understand the particular conversion rates of your funnel. And you need to have that, again, that foundation of the bird's eye view and the user journey as they progress through your platform. But you always need to be asking the question, so what? Now you have all this data. How do you decouple that and say, based on what I know about how long it takes my lead to get from the first point of contact to paying, I can now adjust my strategy to increase that velocity. I know that I tend to have a high amount of rot in the time between post demo and quote issued. What can I do in that space to decrease that rot time and to increase the velocity to closed? Same thing with attribution. Okay, I'm now starting to see an increased number of conversions by first page seen on this one particular blog post. Why is that? Let's go review the blog post. Oh, wow, it's got several backlinks. It's got some really good CTAs. It's got a really good formatting. Okay, let's start to talk about that a bit more. Let's post that on LinkedIn a bit more often, right? Let's do a webinar on that particular topic. Let's drive more traffic to that high converting page to increase our funnel, right? So that's all the so what you get from all of this fundamental understanding of your leads, where they're coming from and how they're going through your funnel. That's what we really want to strive for. So ladies and gents, thank you for your time today. That is the end of our session 3, No Lead Left Behind. We've got one more session left to go for our Data-Driven Insights series, and that is Hold Hands. That is a little bit more of the same about how we continue to get those leads through, but more around what is our customer success function? How are we continually making sure our clients' needs are met? How are we continually ensuring that we have happy and satisfied clients? So you can join me next week for our session 4 on Hold Hands. As before, please feel free to reach out with any questions, queries you may have. If you want a personal run through of the Baremetrics platform, understand how we can help you grow, please reach out and let me know. Be more than happy to take the time and run you through individually. If nothing more, thank you so much for joining us.